You are Locked On Bears POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, it's that kind of season for the Chicago Bears. The Bears lose another heartbreaking loss to the Minnesota Vikings in this one. Their fifth straight loss. They get it back tied. They get it to overtime. And then once again, the Bears lose as just a devastating football game. They had a chance there. So welcome into the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. My name's Joe George, a longtime Chicago Bears fan. This is the Locked On Bears postcast. We'll talk about how that game ended, how the Bears got it to overtime, the ending of the game, Matt Eberflus's incredible record in one-score games as a head coach of the Chicago Bears. I did think we took a really positive step forward with Caleb Williams. We'll talk about that as well, and we'll talk about the Bears just failing at the little things. But look, this loss sucks again. Like, once again, this season, you have a loss in which it's just brutal for the Bears. You have the Hail Mary game, you have the blocked field goal last week. This week, you get it to overtime, your defense collapses on you, and Caleb took a terrible sack in OT as well. That doesn't help the Chicago Bears and what they're trying to accomplish. But once again, the Bears just fall short in a critical moment, and that's just who they are right now as a football team. They are a team that falls short when it matters most, and the reason why is it starts with the coach. Like this game, you can talk about Caleb Williams' sack there in overtime. You can talk about the blocked field goal, which we'll get into. But the facts is that Matt Eberflus is now 5-18 as a head coach in one-score games. That's pathetic. It's almost 20% at that point. 5-18 in one-score games. It's your coaching that seems to be the problem. We all knew that. Like, we knew that going into this game. We knew that going into the season. Like, we're not blind. We know what the Bears, when they decided to keep Eberflus, like what this season would likely be. All the hype before, we knew what it really was. But you're just constantly losing these games. It comes down to coaching. It comes down to the fact that the Vikings, in that possession to go up 11, had a 3rd and 13 and a 3rd and 12 conversion. That in overtime, the Vikings have a 3rd and 10. They have a 1st and 20. And yet they're able to just move down the field in big moments, and your defense is just falling short. And whether it's the decision-making, the play calling itself, or just your players not executing, to have 3 3rd and longs in this game, it's on the players as well, but it's got to be coaching. 5-18 is an astounding record in one-score games. The next closest coach in terms of losing percentage as an active NFL head coach is Zach Taylor at 21-32. Matt Eberflus is 5-18. Now let's talk about how they got there. Let's go back a little bit. So the Bears go down, they get the touchdown to Keenan Allen, they convert the 2-point conversion. Didn't love and we'll get to that a little bit later, going for 2 earlier in the game. And then they get this miraculous onside kick. It hits off the Vikings' backup tight end, I believe it was. They get the recovery. Caleb Williams throws an absolutely electric throw to DJ Moore, who's wide open, but is a big-time throw. We're going to talk about this more in the second segment, but Caleb continues to be extremely clutch for this team, to put his team in a position to win games. Now, then you get to overtime, and he's back there forever. And at some point over the last 2 weeks, when we've seen Caleb, including obviously in this game, have real success running the ball when there's guys not open down the field, you would think he would take off, but he doesn't. They get a major sack, and they end up having to punt the ball back to the Minnesota Vikings. But going back through that possession there at the end. So the Minnesota Vikings, they get the ball. Torrey Taylor has a great punt. Like, I think we all thought it might have been a fumble there, but clearly once they showed it, it was not. Oh, and after the sack, they also had a delay of game. Made it even better. Montez Sweat gets a sack on the first play. His first sack since October 27th. A big play there. Like, you needed him in that moment, but it's 3rd and 10, and the guy who's killing you all game, like, they clearly had a plan to shut down Justin Jefferson. He ended up with, I believe, 2 catches in this game, and clearly had the penalties drawn by Jalen Johnson that hurt the Bears throughout. But in that moment, you're like, okay, it's 3rd and 10. They've given up a 3rd and 13, a 3rd and 12. They're going to get this one, right? Like, this is a team, a coach that prides itself on defense. They're not going to continue to let Sam Darnold, who I know what the Vikings record is, I know what it is, beat you down the field. They do. Jordan Addison converts on a 3rd and 10 there, and the Vikings are moving the ball down the field. Then they give you a false start, so it's 1st and 15. Immediately following that, once again, the Vikings putting themselves in negative positions in this game, whether it's forced or unforced, and then that's when Justin Jefferson gets his second catch of the game for a first down. And then they get a holding penalty. So now it's 1st and 20. And once again, like, the Bears are in position to take advantage of a team that keeps shooting themselves in the foot. It's 1st and 20, a 9-yard dump off to Aaron Jones, which is what they were just kind of eating on throughout this game. Sam Darnold was, going to that check down guy, something that I think we all still want to see Caleb Williams do a little bit more. This is a good example of that, is that when they were in tough positions, just dump it off to your running back and he's going to make it happen. He gets 9 yards, and then they get the conversion to TJ Hawkinson, and then you get another big chunk play to Hawkinson, and the Vikings kick the field goal and win the game against the Chicago Bears. So 3 losses this year, in which you have lost in a way that is it's just devastating. Like, you think back to what this Bears season could have been. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, like, we knew what it was. With Matt Eberflus, we knew that he was terrible as a coach in one-score games. We knew that it almost feels like cursed in a way that they just can't seem to get out of their own way. But to have this, for the third time in a row, in your second game in a row, but your third time in a handful of weeks, to have a chance to win these football games and just continually come up short, it just shows that things are a little bit broken right now. I mean, even earlier in the game when you have the blocked field goal, you can tell like the vibe of the Bears is just very negative. It's kind of like that woe is me kind of thing that we're seeing for the Chicago Bears in that moment where things start to unravel a little bit for you. And look, and I give them credit, and a lot of this I think is Caleb Williams, what we saw in the Washington, Green Bay, and this game, where he is kind of overcoming these obstacles of the guys around him and trying to put the Bears in a position to win. And again, that sack, it cannot happen. You get one, he's one bad rookie mistake in this game. Like, I'm not gonna crush a guy for that when he was pretty excellent in this football game, which we'll dive deeper into in the next segment. But to just come up short again, it's infuriating. It's just laughable too at this point. It's like, of course they're gonna lose this way, and of course they're gonna keep Matt Eberflus and into this season and continually come up short in meaningful moments. But for it to happen against the Minnesota Vikings the week after it happens to the Green Bay Packers, and look, that blocked field goal, they pointed out very clearly on the broadcast, it's the exact same problem as the previous week. This is the Bears' third blocked field goal of the season, in which their field goals have been blocked. But for 2 weeks in a row to have pretty much the exact same spot in the line be the problem, when clearly, like, Santos just has to hit that thing on a line drive to try to make the kick work. But that right there, that's the game. I mean, going for 2, you can question that decision-making process. I don't know if that's Thomas Brown or Matt Eberflus. I'm guessing that's Eberflus to go with the analytics, which I despise, to be honest. I don't really think the idea that you need to go for 2 to then make it a 6-point game makes all the sense in the world. Like, you've got blocked field goals, but those are long kicks. This is an extra point. Like, you shouldn't be worried about that in this moment. And look, they go for 2, they don't get it, but it doesn't bite them in the end, because they pull off a miracle nearly and get this thing to overtime. Like, the fact that even happened when all these things are going wrong for the Bears throughout this game is really shocking. When you have DeAndre Carter with that muff punt, which is a disaster play inside of itself, but he gets the big return to help you get to overtime. So he kind of makes up for his own mistake. But just to have a third loss this season, to lose in devastating fashion, it's just tough. Like, there are positives to take away from even getting to that moment, and I think that's kind of the way that I feel like I have to look at this game right now, because as annoyed I am with Matt Eberflus, as done I am with Matt Eberflus, like, we just know that they're not going to make a change mid-season, and they're just going to, at this point, you hope they don't totally unravel again like they did after the Washington game. And for them to, that is a positive in this game as well, to lose the way they did to the Packers and then to fight back in this game, does show that there's still fight left in this team, which I think we as fans, we appreciate. But, I'm not going to blame the refs for this one. There were some bad pass interference plays. It just comes down to execution and letting 3 different third and long opportunities to put you down to 11 and then in overtime. It's just a total failure by this organization to just not take the steps in the right direction. And this game sucks. I can't believe they lost it. I was stunned. I'm sitting there with my hands up in the air when they, got that onside kick recovery. It's the first one in the NFL this season. It's so stupid the way they do it now. They really should just move to a 4th and 15 or something like that, like the Eagles have been trying to force the NFL to take on that rule. But they get the onside kick recovery, and I think we're all thinking hey, this is it. But that's being a Bears fan. That's being a Bears fan 101. This is it. This is the moment where, the season, at least you're going to have one dramatic win. It's to balance out what happened versus Green Bay and Washington, but instead you just lose in absolutely devastating fashion once again. So let's talk about the good stuff here on the from the game today. And that good stuff is really all centered around Caleb Williams and what he did to get the Bears back into this game, what he did during this game. The offense overall was still just a major positive and took another step forward under Thomas Brown, the new offensive coordinator. Shane Waldron must be the worst coach on planet Earth, and I think we all kind of thought that. Maybe Luke Getsy was still in front of him because he'd been fired twice in less than a calendar year. But it is remarkable how different this offense looks against the Minnesota Vikings, a really talented defense, run by a really, really good coach in Brian Flores, who has had them rolling throughout the year. So there are positives to take away from Caleb Williams' performance. We'll get into that next year. Hit that subscribe button to Locked On Sports Chicago. We're here live after every single Bears, Bulls, Cubs, and Notre Dame game throughout the year. So if many of these heartbreaks that the Chicago Bears are going to give us, we are here for you, including we will be doing a show on Thursday after the Lions game on Thanksgiving. So if you want to get away from your family for 30 minutes and come hang out with us, more than welcome to live here on YouTube. So when we get back, let's talk about those positives from Caleb Williams, because there are things in this game that I think we need to big picture take a look at and say this is still a good game for the future of the Chicago Bears. We'll do that next year on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, all of that you can find at Hillsdale College. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, and a brand new documentary-style course are Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. PrizePicks. Join over 10 million users on PrizePicks right now. Look, Caleb Williams, more passing yards. That was a hit today on PrizePicks. Looked at my lineup right before the show started. Still got a couple things left to play out, but you can join me and 10 million users on PrizePicks. You can win up to 100 times your cash with just getting 4 picks correct. One of my favorite things about PrizePicks right now, they now offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. So you sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. The best part, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's totally guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday each Tuesday, and then they do select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with code LOCKEDONNFL. PrizePicks, run your game. So even though the bad, that's there, we know what it is, the Bears suck at times, at least in clutch situations, it seems. Third loss of the season in brutal fashion, 30-27 to the Minnesota Vikings to move to 4-6 on the season. Remember when they were 4-2? That was fun times. But Caleb Williams today, 32 of 47, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 103.1 rating in this game. He was pretty excellent throughout this one, and that's the biggest positive thing we have to take away from this game. It was the most important question for the Bears this season, was when the season ended, are you confident that you drafted a franchise quarterback? Games like this, games like last week, I will even take part of the Washington game where he led the comeback and where they should have won that game as well as another reason why it gives me more and more confidence for what Caleb Williams did. Again, that sack in overtime, it can't happen, but he was excellent in this game. He's also now the franchise rookie record for passing yards, low bar. low bar, but like it is what it is. So here's a couple things that stood out from this game. Obviously, those back-to-back throws early in the game, the tight window throw to Keenan Allen where it looks like it could have been intercepted. That's a great throw, but I think I love the next one more, where he's rolling out to his right, DeAndre Swift breaks out down the field, and Caleb does that off-platform throw that he loves to do and is so excellent at, and just drops it in a bucket to DeAndre Swift. That was such a great sequence of plays for him because it shows that he can put the ball into very little windows and be incredibly accurate, which we see at times. Like we saw the Rome Odunze ball in the fourth quarter there before they tied the game up. That was just kind of an errant throw, and he had Rome open. And then you follow that up, the Keenan throw to the DeAndre Swift throw, and you're just like, man, this guy, like, he can make something out of nothing. He can put the ball into places where very few quarterbacks in the NFL feel like they can. The Keenan Allen throw also to the sideline, that it's out by a centimeter. I mean, Keenan Allen is just there to get his foot down. I actually was surprised they overturned that. I know they showed on the broadcast. I'm glad they explained it to us like we're 5. But, you know, when they show on the broadcast, like you've got that throw or that angle down the sideline, or like you have to, like you can't use it because not every team has that available to them. It's kind of baffling to me. It's a stupid thing, the rule of the NFL, for later in the game. But the Keenan Allen one, like it was right there. It was an inch away. It was a great throw from Caleb Williams there as well. So look, those are some of like the best throws that he have. Now, leading up to the blocked field goal, again, Caleb Williams moving the ball down the field. He's getting his team in position to get the field goal before it gets blocked. And look, I get it. Like, they miss it. Here's the thing. It was a excellent drive, again, for Caleb Williams. To get them into that position, to get the field goal, and then it gets blocked, that's not on him. Like, you can be mad at Caleb Williams all you want. I see the ghost here just ripping off comments in the chat saying ridiculous things about putting Tyson Bagent. They're 4-7, whatever. It's not Caleb Williams' fault. If that's what you are thinking, I can't help you is not a bad quarterback, and this game proves it. Like, it's a terrible sack, but it's one moment. You can't take away all the bad stuff that is happening in the game there, or all the good stuff that's happening in the game. Then again, you have the touchdown drive to DJ Moore. Easy pass. Like, they find the way to adjust the offense there in a big way. And that's what I think I like the most still about what Thomas Brown has done, is just finding the easy stuff. Like we saw DJ Moore earlier in the game. There was 2 possessions or 2 plays back to back that I really, really liked. The first one was the one where Caleb Williams he has to pump fake it because the defender reads the swing pass to DJ Moore, so he pumps that and then he gets it to DJ Moore. But then there's the toss sweep to DJ Moore the next play, and then eventually the screen pass to DJ later in the game as well. Like, they're just finding little things that they can do to make the offense move in a much more efficient manner. DeAndre Swift obviously didn't get going in this one, but Caleb's the reason why that they got down there for the blocked field goal. He's the reason why they got there to overtime, and one bad play does not end the all, but that's a learning experience that you need to see from him moving forward the next time that Caleb Williams is in overtime, or really just in any critical situation. You can't take that sack. Like, it is not acceptable there. But in this moment, in this game, overall, like, I don't know what else you can ask for besides one play. Like, he led you to multiple drives down the field to let them, be in position to get it to overtime. Just did everything you could check the boxes for, in my opinion, for Caleb Williams in this game. Just executed everything that was absolutely in front of him. So overall, I think, besides that one play and a couple very little errant throws, as a rookie, you are still seeing Caleb Williams develop in a way that should make you very, very happy as a Bears fan. That if you are, looking forward to what can be and what has been for the Bears this season, this is a step forward in progress for what it was. I mean, think back to how bad it was those 2 Washington games, the 2 games after Washington, where it's just totally a disaster on offense. But to see what's happened the last 2 weeks with the offensive coordinator change, it's frustrating that they didn't make this change sooner. Because it doesn't mean the Bears would have made the playoffs if they would have made this change sooner, but it's just because you have so much less time to see what can be at the end of the year. Like, you're not going to see maybe like the roller coaster a little bit. Like if you look at Jaden Daniels right now, he's really struggling to move the ball down the field. He was less than 100 yards most of the game today against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys. So we're seeing like that roller coaster for him, where Caleb, it's been a really high peak 2 weeks in a row, hitting the bottom again, but now with the new offensive coordinator, it just feels like it's moving in a direction that we should all be satisfied with. I just wish they would have done it sooner, because I would like to see just more of a sample size for Caleb Williams. I think one of the positives about the sample size that you are going to get, though, is that you're going to play the Packers twice. You're going to play the Vikings twice. You're going to play the Lions twice. So how they play the next time versus the Vikings and Brian Flores, counters what we saw in this game will also teach a lot about what Caleb Williams is going to be. But look, this game's not on Caleb Williams. Absolutely. He put them in a position to win the game. If they could just, ever win, if you're Matt Eberflus in a one-score game, 5-18 as a head coach in one-score games, doesn't matter who his quarterback is. It's just not good enough at this point in the season, or actually really just as his tenure as the head coach of the Bears. And it's probably why he's going to get fired at the end of the year. And part of that is the little things that they fail at. A couple things I'm tired of as well. Like clearly there's some frustration in a loss like this about the way it ended, but like the end of the game, I don't want to take away from the things that they were really, really bad at in this game that like are just unacceptable still. There's players, there's coaches, there's just execution overall of things that are happening that we'll hit into next. It is the Locked On Bears postcast. Hit that subscribe button to the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel if you're new here. We do this after every single Bears, Bulls, Cubs, and Notre Dame game. My name's Joe George. We'll get into that next here on Locked On Sports Chicago.
Locked On Bears is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. It's a great way to get your betting jump-started here. A $5 bet on any of those or any of your other favorite sports. And if that bet hits, not only do you get the winnings for your bet, but also a bonus $150 in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets as well, all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get your $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel.
All right, let's talk about the little things that the Bears are failing at. Because, look, there's a lot of things that they do to the reason why they lost this game outside of just poor execution in overtime. That led you to even having to get to overtime. You could have had moments in this game. The first thing I'm going to talk about that I'm done with, look, this is still just anger back to the way that Tyreek Stevenson was handling himself at the end of the Washington game. I think I'm out on Tyreek Stevenson. That play where Aaron Jones breaks off before eventually the Bears force the fumble and Jonathan Owens gets the ball back for the Bears. He's just totally lost on what he's supposed to be doing there. Aaron Jones is running right at him. His feet are planted in the ground, and then Jones just runs right by him. And it's just this guy. I know we were all hopeful as Bears fans when he was drafted and thinking that the Bears would have one of the best secondaries in the NFL with him, Kyler Gordon, and Jalen Johnson. But I'm just at the point where I'm unimpressed, and I cannot stop thinking about Washington, that every single time he makes a bad play, he gets burnt on a play, he just doesn't do his job. I think, and there's a reason why he hasn't really regained his role all the way back since that very beginning of the game. It's just too much. It's too much to overcome as a fan to watch Tyreek Stevenson have bad moments, and that one stood out right away for me. But then there's the blocked field goal. The blocked field goal stuff, they pointed this out on the broadcast. The third blocked field goal of the season, the second week in a row, that it's literally coming from the exact same spot. And this is where it's just coaching matters. Coaching, and that's so clear with what the Bears are going through this season, and really the last couple years of Matt Eberflus being the head coach, is they don't fix the little things. They don't fix things that are so obvious to them. And really the Vikings had another opportunity there. I think there was that game-tying field goal where they're right there again to block the kick. And that one doesn't get blocked, but they have two blocked field goals back-to-back games. And then you see the offense and the defense just kind of fall apart a little bit there after that moment, where you can tell that this is a team that feels defeated a little bit in those moments. And they rebounded really nicely in the second half to get this thing to overtime, but just can't happen 2 weeks in a row, a blocked field goal like that. Things that they have to fix that I don't quite understand. Honestly, I think Matt Eberflus should have just gone for it on fourth down too. It's 4th and 5. Your offense is moving the ball really well. And obviously, Caleb Williams wanted to go for it on fourth down. I know last week that he convinced them to. Later in the game, it looked like he convinced Matt Eberflus because Santos was coming on the field and then they came off. Looked like Caleb wanted to go for it on fourth down there before the block. And honestly, I would have just gone for it there because where you're at on the field, it's the same stuff as last week where you're just based on the way that he has to, the way he has to kick it to, make the field goal. Like it's frustrating. You're seeing Jaquan Brisker, from concussion protocol tweeting at, fans during the game, going back and forth with people about Santos because there's these blocks, like they have to fall on him a little bit too. So back-to-back weeks with those blocked field goals, really tough. Didn't love the challenge from Matt Eberflus, even though the one angle that they can't use, I think it showed clearly, Jordan Addison was out earlier. Jonathan Owens also, just make a tackle. Don't just try to clobber a guy. But Matt Eberflus is now 2 for 8 as a head coach on challenges. He's 0 for 4 this season. So I didn't love that challenge. And then you have the DeAndre Carter mess, which I thought we were over that when they cut Bayless Jones. But to wave everyone off and then to not wave yourself off, what are we doing? Like that's football 101. You learn that in Pee Wee football. He knows that. That's why he threw his helmet and he was so pissed at the end of the game there. But just another moment when you look at this loss, besides just your defense kind of failing you in overtime and then, as the Vikings got up 11 and just giving up these big chunk plays on third down, DeAndre Carter, it can't happen. And one thing I think is also still and maybe it's gotten better obviously the last 2 weeks. And Keenan Allen put his hands up, said that's on me. The hot route there on the 3rd and 3 where he's not even looking at the ball. Caleb hits Keenan Allen's hand. But he's just not looking for the ball at all. He has to know right there that the pressure, if it comes, he's the guy. It's very clear on that play that he was the option route and needed to be ready for the ball. So that's a little thing from him. And with that, I'll go back to the Rome Odunze missed throw that Caleb had there in the fourth quarter, but it didn't matter in the end. I think that was the drive they scored on still. It was still the drive they scored on. So it didn't hurt them. But, little things like that, are just the stuff the Bears have to fix. And frankly, I think as Bears fans, we should not expect them to fix them with Matt Eberflus as the head coach. They just continue to shoot themselves in the foot, whether it's coaching decisions or playing decisions or just players not coming up and executing in the right moments. And again, the reason why they probably really lost this football game is because whatever happened on those 3 third and long plays, to have a 3rd and 13 and a 3rd and 12 on one drive, and for the Vikings to convert on both of those with ease, and then in overtime to have a 3rd and 10 and a 1st and 20, and none of it matters because your defense can't get off the field. Even when your offense isn't perfect, a day like today where it's been flipped the entire season, right? We've seen it the entire year. The Bears defense has been expected to do, incredible things because the offense has been poor. Well, on a day like today where the offense scores 27 points, this game's a little bit on the defense for this one, for sure. So it sucks the Bears lost. I was hoping to, when we started doing the show, do some of these post-game shows that'd be wins. Not sure we're going to do any of those this season. Maybe they won't ruin Thanksgiving for us and we'll somehow surprise the Lions. They won't. Look, the Bears are on a 5-game losing streak here, whatever it is at this point in the season. They're 4-6 on the year. They're 4-2 at home. So you got a bunch of road games where Matt Eberflus is absolutely terrible. They're on the road next week against the Lions. But, in this 5-game losing streak, 3 of these games you very easily could have won, should have won. And you have losses this year to the Colts at 21-16, to the Texans 19-13, which at the time felt like not a terrible loss. But there's really only one game this year, and that's the Cardinals game, where the Bears were totally outplayed for 4 quarters and lost that game 29-9. This season, they missed the playoffs. It's based on coaching, on hiring, on process, like they keep talking to us about for all these times at these press conferences, and lack of accountability. And the person who's going to be the number one guy most accountable after this game, I can guarantee you, will be Caleb Williams. He will talk about that sack in overtime and talk about how it's on him. But the delay a game on the next play to make it, 3rd and 26 or whatever it was, just does not help. So the Bears lose 30-27 to the Minnesota Vikings in overtime, their 3rd heartbreaking loss of the season. Thanks for checking us out. Hit that subscribe button to Locked On Sports Chicago, we're here after every single Bears, Bulls, Cubs, and Notre Dame game here, and the audio is also available on the Locked On Bears audio feed, wherever you get your audio, so Spotify, Apple, wherever you subscribe to your podcast. Hit that subscribe button there. We will talk to you after the next Bulls game, and we'll talk to you as well here on Thanksgiving after the Bears take on the Lions. Thanks for hanging out with us, even the people who seem to hate Caleb Williams in the chat, or at least one person. But thanks for hanging out with us. We will talk to you soon. Peace.